Zingiswa Losi was addressing the delegates. We've just played a couple of her bites where she's warning the ANC to get its house in order and fix itself. Otherwise, it stands to lose big time come 2024 general elections. But then we saw drama. Where you are now, back inside after lunch, is still quiet. We can see delegates streaming back in. What's the latest?
Well, President, let me show you what we're seeing as delegates seemingly making their way back inside the hall. We know that over 2,100 of them have come and flocked here to Gallagher Estate, not only to elect new leadership, but to discuss a new program of action for the working class. And as you stated earlier on, and as you've heard from the sound clips from Zingiswa Losi, who I must add has been nominated unopposed to continue as COSATU president. We heard how she basically warned the ANC of some of the issues the working class is facing and the problems that the working class is seized with, which the ANC-led government needs to address. From what we understand, of course, Bradan, is that everything started off quite normally this morning. Everybody came, everybody got their accreditation, everybody made their way into the hall. Some messages of support were so we started hearing messages of support. Rather, we know that there are sister organizations that are here as well, stakeholders who've been invited, and of course alliance partners who have also made their way to this day one of Congress. When we were about to hear from the alliance partner, which is the ANC, represented by chair of the ANC, that is Mr. Gwede Mantashe, then things started to take a turn for the worst. We started seeing a group of disgruntled delegates then starting to chant "Asina Mali," which means we don't have money. And then we started hearing chants that Gwede Mantashe must leave. In fact, Gwede Mantashe did not get an opportunity at all to address delegates, and they are saying that the ANC is going back on its promises, it's not listening to the working class, and it's not helping the working class. We know the past couple of years have been quite difficult, and so Mr. Mantashe then went off the stage to take his seat, but that wasn't enough. In fact, it seems as though the Congress then decided they were going to take an early lunch. And that is when delegates started to leave the hall to make their way to the lunch hall. And Mr. Mantashe, we understand, also made his way there. We tried to speak to him to no avail. He was flanked by the NEC's Lindiwe Zulu, as well as Barbara Krusi and Mamuluko Kubai. And they would also not give us an opportunity to speak to him, saying that an official announcement would be made from the podium here at the official event as to whether Mr. Mantashe will actually have an opportunity to address them. So at this point, that is what we're waiting for as we await and watch delegates streaming in. I do see some former leadership members as well who are here. I don't know, maybe if we can have a chance to speak to him. I see Mr. Dumo Dlamini, who was seated next to Mr. Mantashe. I know you're trying to avoid me, but Bab Dlamini, please, just your thoughts on what transpired about an hour ago, where it does seem as though some delegates, some disgruntled delegates, having issues with the ANC and its leadership. What do you make of what has happened here?
Well, first I must indicate that I'm here as a former leader of COSATU. I saw what was happening, and I'm sure it's being managed quite well. I can only end here.
You were seated next to Mr. Mantashe and you saw what unfolded. Do you think that the ANC could be in trouble come 2024, just looking at what we saw unfolding here?
Yeah, I must indicate that I'm worried about this interview. Yes. And I think on the question you are raising, the ANC as an organization that listens, I'm sure it's going to look into what has happened here today and responds positively to what should happen going forward.
All right, Mr. Dlamini, I will leave it there for now. Thank you. Thank you for your time. That is a former top leadership member of COSATU, that is Mr. Stumo Dlamini, giving us an assessment in terms of what he saw unfolding and transpiring. Maybe let's just take a walk towards the middle of the room, Bradan, to see if there's anyone else we can spot that we can speak to. In fact, I see Ms. Barbara Creasy making her way back into the hall. I do see one of the officials who handles the communications for Mr. Mantashe, who's also still here, but I don't see Mr. Mantashe as yet. You can see to my left Ms. Barbara Creasy, who forms part of the ANC-NEC members who have come in support of the Congress, but in fact, yeah, it does seem as though Mr. Mantashe is still here, so there is a possibility that we may see an address, we may not, we don't know, but of course we were told there'd be an official announcement after the lunch break, and it does seem as though delegates are making their way back in, and we will see if Mr. Mantashe will be able to address us at this point. I'm trying to get an indication from his one of his officials. We'll speak to us at once at some time.
Yeah, the announcement, yeah.
All right, there'll be an announcement. Okay. All right, that is Natisha Bangu. He forms part of Mr. Mantashe's media team at Mineral Resources, and he's telling us that there will be an official announcement made and that we will be addressed as well as the media when the time comes. But you can see that Mr. Mantashe is still in the building, and it seems as though there may be a solution. But I think we will be bringing you those visuals live as the Congress then resumes. But what we saw from that very disgruntled group earlier on was the fact that they do not want Mr. Mantashe to address them. They were singing quite vocally, saying, Asina Mali, Gwede Magahambe, meaning Gwede Mantashe must go. Tensions were quite high just before lunch. Things have certainly calmed down a little bit more, Bradan, and we just now await for the program to resume. And as I've indicated to you earlier on as well, Bradan, is that this is not the first time a top ANC leader has been booed off stage and not allowed to address an event. We saw a similar occurrence back at May Day in Rustenburg, with President Cyril Ramaphosa, who essentially had to be escorted away from the event and not allowed to address the workers there.
Yeah, but let's point out it's the first time it's happening on day one of a Congress of COSATU, where an alliance partner like the ANC has been stopped. I guess we're going to have to wait, and you also have to find a position to hear this announcement so we can bring it live a little bit later on. We're going to have to leave it there for now. Silindelo, excellent work there at the Gallagher Estate, the venue of the COSATU's 14th National Congress. Now, Gwede Mantashe's very public snubbing by some COSATU delegates this afternoon speaks volumes about the many issues the Labour Federation has with the ruling party, its ally, that's the ANC. Now, this is the word from political analyst Ibrahim Harvey. He says the chaos that broke out earlier this afternoon at that 14th Congress paints a worrying picture of a deepening crisis.
A lot of it has to do with the objective socio-economic crisis in this country, which is affecting even the organized workers. Can you imagine what impact it's having on unorganized, non-unionized workers? And finally, I think, this might be good news in the sense that COSATU might be signaling today, on the first day of its Congress, that the rejection of Mantashe certainly, I think, speaks to the problems which COSATU is having with the ANC, the multiplicity of factors, the municipal crisis, and there you just heard from Tshwane that people will not pay today, Dan, the staff of Tshwane, and probably most of them are ANC members or supporters. So it's a combination of factors which speaks to this growing crisis.
That's Dr. Harvey speaking to me a little earlier, but the action, the center of the action is in the Gallagher Estate. Let's listen to the man of the moment, so to speak, Gwede Mantashe.
Now, if I didn't get an increase, I didn't. After I wish I could join them. I'm 5 years now in government. I've never got an increase. So, but I don't demonstrate this way. Okay. All I'm saying is that there are formal structures which have nothing to do with the political setup. They are technical. They are structures that are meant by bureaucrats, and bureaucrats must do their work in those structures. The bargaining council is not managed in the Congress. It's not managed in the Tool House.
Are you listening to workers, Mr. Mantashe?
Come again?
Are you listening to the workers who are ready?
I listen, I hear them. I sat with them, I ate with them. We're in the same, I ate with the delegates, and nobody hit me there. Okay.
Mr. Mantashe, are you worried that workers are rejecting the ANC?
No, I don't know that. That is what you can conclude as a journalist. But rejection and actually raising your issue with the ANC, if they were rejecting the ANC, they would first not invite us here. Okay, we're invited here. That is not rejection. If they want to disrupt the speech of the ANC, that's a different matter. It's a statement they're making, and we must listen to that statement.
Do you wish to address the Congress?
Come again?
Do you wish to address the Congress?
I am here to address the Congress. We are invited. I'm here to address the Congress.
So you will address the conference?
I'm here to address the conference. Will and coming here on invitation are two different things. I'm invited to come here, and one of the responsibilities to address the conference.
Mr. Mantashe, will we be seeing the president coming here to address this conference here?
No, we don't. It's not an ANC conference. We're not going to cause a queue of ANC speakers to this conference. I'm here. I will speak for the ANC. If I don't speak, nobody will speak for the ANC here.
What do you say to the delegates that don't want you to speak?
I will talk to them. I am a mine worker. I was in the inaugural Congress of this federation. It's my federation. I'm here not in a foreign land. I'm in my federation. Okay. 1985 in Durban, Gwede Mantashe was a delegate, and I spoke in that Congress. Okay.
Mr. Mantashe, are you worried?
I never missed any Cosatu Congress until 2006 when I left the NUM.
Mr. Mantashe, are you not worried that this is a signal come 2024 about the state of how frustrated workers are with the ANC?
No, if workers are angry because of increases, that is a collective bargaining issue. If you want to make it an alliance issue, you are committing a mistake. It's not an alliance issue, it's a collective bargaining issue. And in the collective bargaining, there is leadership of workers and leadership of the employer.
But it's the ANC government, Mr. Mantashe.
In the collective bargaining, there is the leadership of the workers and the leadership of the employer. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mantashe. That is Mr. Mantashe, who is seemingly very happy to address us now. He's seemingly going to wait for a signal in terms of the Congress itself about the way forward. Mr. Mantashe, I do want to engage you, though, on the issues about workers and what they are saying to the ANC about the fact that the ANC-led government is not protecting workers from the socio-economic conditions, and that unemployment, like the president of COSATU said earlier on, is the crisis that we're facing right now as South Africans.
And there's something else important that she did. She acknowledged that over the last 2 quarters it has been corroded down. And that is a progress. There's a time lag between policy formulation and the effect of that policy. So if it is coming down, we must just continue to do consistent work on improving the economic situation and rebuild the employment. Okay.
Thank you, President. Just one final question to Mr. Mantashe in terms of the state of the ANC and how workers are feeling about them. To my right, we are seeing some more delegates just singing right now. But at this point, we're just awaiting, in fact, the arrival of the top leadership that is running this Congress right now. And I can hear that the song is about Gwede. Let's just take a listen. Dan, as you can hear, the song is about Mr. Mantashe, and that what it sounds like is that the ANC, Gwede Mantashe, has sold out workers. You know, Mr. Mantashe mentioning how he was a mine worker himself and saying that he understands the frustrations. I just pulled a Denosa member out, that is Begi Temba Mgwenya. He's a voting delegate. Just maybe elaborate a little bit more for our viewers why it is that workers, in particular delegates like yourself, don't want to hear from Mr. Mantashe.
We don't want to hear from Mr. Mantashe because we entrusted them as a governing party that we are in alliance with. Hence, their tactics have been that they are collapsing the bargaining council, whereby we are voting, we are negotiating. We are negotiating in bad faith. They deploy people that cannot engage us freely. For 3 years without salary increase, hence they have got their increase. That was backdated for 12 months. We as Denosa, we are very aggrieved. We have been at the forefront during COVID, being called the front liners, very fancy name. Hence, we have not even benefited anything. So we don't want to listen to them. They must just leave our Congress so that we proceed.
That is Mr. Begi Temba Mgwenya from Denosa, giving us more context that, you know, government employees, in particular, he's from Denosa, so he's a healthcare professional, that the past couple of years have been extremely difficult for them, that they have not received their salary increases, and that is the issues. Those are the issues that are at play. I do see Mr. Begi Nchali up on stage, but then I'm not sure if you have just a few more minutes to bear with me. You know, IEC officials, in fact, are also here because, you know, there is supposed to be a voting process that's going to take place. But if I give you a picture of the actual hall itself now, you can see that many delegates have already started taking their seats, meaning that any moment now, we would be seeing the start, or the resumption rather, of day one of this Congress. Mr. Njali, how are you doing, sir? I know it's been a difficult couple of hours in terms of just before the lunch break. Can you give our viewers a sense as to whether we will hear from Mr. Mantashe now that the Congress is set to resume?
Probably not today. We have agreed to talk to the delegates overnight, and probably we'll be speaking tomorrow.
Maybe your sense as to what happened, is it a manifestation and a visual representation of just how frustrated workers are with the tripartite alliance, in particular the ANC-led government?
I think it is a reflection, as you were hearing from the songs. They're talking about wage increase, the attack on collective bargaining, and I think is fixed on those bases. Remember, workers regard the ANC as an employer because of the government, and it's understood in that context.
Do you think the ANC should take these kinds of occurrences as a warning? Come 2024, what does the ANC need to correct moving forward?
I think it's a clear message that workers are frustrated. To what degree then in the election we're still going to discuss the political report. I can't speculate.
Thank you very much, Mr. Delegate. All right, sir. An update just in right now from Mr. Njali saying Mr. Mantashe will not be addressing the Congress today. They will be speaking to delegates overnight and hoping to find a way forward, and possibly, maybe, Mr. Mantashe will be allowed to speak tomorrow.
Yes, that's the very latest that you've got there. Well done, Silindelo Masikane, for speaking to Mr. Begi Nchali as he's waiting there for the rest of the COSATU leadership, while a group of delegates are still singing there, expressing themselves, and clearly the mood is of frustration and of disappointment from what we've heard from delegates that you've been interviewing, and commentary that you've had with some of the people you've been speaking to disappointment at the lack of salary increases over years by the workers, and also how the governing party, according to one delegate, has been treating bargaining councils. I think we're going to have to wait for that announcement to come, but we've got it now. We've heard it first here. You've heard it first here on eNCA, DSTV Channel 43, that the chairperson of the ANC, Gwede Mantashe, in all likelihood will not be addressing the day one, the opening day of COSATU's 14th National Congress. Historically, on day one, the ANC leader who's been deployed to address its allies, COSATU, historically, they've always addressed the Congress on day one. But this time around, some delegates saying, no, we don't want to hear any more empty promises of the ANC, expressing their views very, very strongly. Mr. Mantashe is back inside the hall. He spoke to Silindelo and other media journalists a short while ago, pretty much saying that he does not believe this is an alliance issue. It's a salary issue. It's a bargaining issue. Some delegates saying bargaining councils are being undermined by the very government that they are allied with. That's the ANC government. We'll have to wait and see what's going to happen. But we now know that it's unlikely at this stage for Mr. Mantashe to be allowed to address the Cosatu Congress in Midrand. Silindelo Masikane will keep us posted.